Level 1. Child. You learn what the Imperial Guard is before you learn what the Imperium is. The Imperium is too large for a child to understand. A million worlds, endless wars, an emperor who has sat upon a golden throne for longer than your family's bloodline has existed. The Guard is simpler. The Guard is the empty chair at your kitchen table. Your father belonged to the local regiment. You remember his uniform more clearly than his face. Faded green cloth, heavy boots, and a brass aquila your mother polished every week after he left. He was deployed when you were 4. The administratum still lists him as missing. Your mother calls that better than confirmed dead. She says it means there is still hope. You notice she only says this when other people are listening. Your world is not famous. It is not Cadia, Krieg, or Armageddon. It has no legendary fortress, no ancient chapter monastery, and no relic worth sending space marines to protect. It has factories. It worth sending space marines produces rifle components, artillery shells, ration tins, and people. The first 3 are packed into crates. The 4th are placed into uniforms. Every morning, troop carriers move through the streets toward the orbital docks. You watch soldiers standing inside them with their helmets beneath their arms. Some are frightened. Some are laughing too loudly. Most stare forward as if the city has already become something they are trying to remember. Nobody tells you where they are going. The destination changes. The ending usually does not. At school, you learn basic Low Gothic, Imperial history, and the correct words to use when praising the Emperor. Your teacher points to a map of the galaxy, but most of it is covered by symbols you cannot read. Red circles mean active war zones. There are more red circles than stars you can name. You are taught that every human life belongs to the Imperium. Your labor belongs to it. Your faith belongs to it. Your blood belongs to it if the tithe demands payment. The adults call this duty. The children call it what it is, waiting for your turn. Sometimes a regiment returns. The city gathers beneath banners while military bands play loudly enough to hide how few soldiers step off the transports. The survivors march through the streets, wearing medals and expressions that do not look like victory. One of them recognizes your family name. He served with your father. Your mother asks him what happened. The soldier looks at you before answering. He says your father fought bravely. That is not an answer, and even at 8 years old, you understand why he cannot give the real one. That night, your mother finally removes the polished aquila from the table. 2 years later, an officer visits your school. He speaks about honor, discipline, courage, and the sacred privilege of serving mankind. Behind him hangs a recruitment banner showing clean soldiers beneath a golden sunrise. None of them are missing limbs. None of them are screaming. None of them look like the veterans who returned to your city. The officer asks who among you wants to defend the Imperium. Every hand rises. Yours rises too. Not because you believe him, because the boy beside you hesitates and everyone notices. On your world, fear is understandable. Allowing others to see it is not. A week later, your name appears on a preliminary military register. You are still years away from carrying a lasgun, but the Imperium has already decided where your life is going. Childhood ends quietly, not with a battle, not with a funeral, with a number printed beside your name. Level 2, Cadet. At 12 years old, the Imperium gives you your first uniform. It is too large in the shoulders, too tight at the collar, and still carries the smell of the cadet who wore it before you. Nobody tells you what happened to him. You are assigned to the Planetary Youth Corps with several hundred other children from the factory districts. Officially, you are not soldiers. You carry wooden rifles, march beneath school banners, and spend your mornings learning Imperial history. In the afternoons, the wooden rifles are replaced with real lasguns. The power cells are empty. At first. Your instructors are veterans who can no longer serve in active regiments. One has a metal leg. Another wears a black patch over the place where his left eye used to be. The oldest instructor never raises his voice because everyone goes silent when they see the burn scars covering his throat. They teach you how to march, how to salute, how to clean a weapon, how to recognize an officer by the shape of his coat before you can see his face. They also teach you lessons that do not appear in the official training manual. Never stand beside the radio operator during an artillery strike. Never volunteer to carry ammunition unless you understand what ammunition does when it catches fire. Never believe an officer who says reinforcements are close. And if a veteran tells you to run, do not ask what he saw. You begin waking before the factory sirens. Your boots become polished. Your bed becomes perfectly square. You learn to eat quickly because instructors enjoy ending meals without warning. The children who cannot keep up are punished. The children who cry are punished twice. The children who report them are praised for vigilance. You begin to understand that the Youth Corps is not teaching you how to survive war. It is teaching you how to obey before survival becomes relevant. Every month, your unit participates in a public parade. Parents gather along the streets while you march beneath enormous banners showing the Emperor surrounded by golden light. Your mother stands in the same place each time. She smiles. You can see that she hates the uniform. One afternoon, the instructors activate your lasgun's power cell for the first time. The target is a human-shaped silhouette. You miss. The instructor behind you adjusts your shoulders, presses the stock harder against your body, and tells you to fire again. This time, the beam strikes the target's chest. The instructor marks your score and moves to the next cadet. You expected the moment to feel important. It feels like learning to operate another factory tool. That is probably the point. Near the end of your second year, warning sirens sound across the city. At first, everyone assumes it is another exercise. Then, anti-aircraft guns begin firing. Something has entered the upper atmosphere. You never learn whether it is a pirate vessel, a Xenos raider, or simply debris from a battle taking place somewhere above your world. The instructors rush your unit into an underground shelter while explosions shake dust from the ceiling. One cadet begins praying, another begins laughing. You sit between them, holding an unloaded lasgun, and realize that none of your training has prepared you for the sound of a real explosion. The attack ends before nightfall. 3 factory blocks are destroyed. 47 civilians are killed. The official announcement calls the defense a complete success. The next morning, your instructors take you to the ruins. Cadets form lines and help recover bodies. You find a hand beneath a collapsed wall. It is still holding a lunch tin. That night, you clean your boots for almost an hour because there is dried blood inside the seams. You finally understand why the veterans never speak about victory the way recruitment officers do. Victory does not mean nobody dies. It means enough people remain to write the report. At 14, you complete cadet training. An officer reads your name from a list and hands you a certificate bearing the seal of the Departamento Munitorum. Your mother keeps the certificate. The Imperium keeps you. Level 3, Conscript. At 15, the Imperium stops pretending you are being trained for the future. The future has arrived early. A new tithe order is posted across the city. Every factory district must provide additional manpower for an off-world campaign. The announcement says the enemy is threatening vital Imperial territory. It does not say which enemy. It does not say which territory. It does not say how many previous regiments have already disappeared there. Your cadet certificate reduces your training period from 12 weeks to 6. That is considered a reward. You are moved into a barracks built from an abandoned assembly hall. Hundreds of recruits sleep between rusting machinery and painted devotional slogans. Some are older than your mother. Others are younger than you. The Munitorum calls all of you equal now, equally replaceable. Your uniform is issued from a crate. Your boots are one size too small. Your helmet carries a dent above the left temple and a dark stain nobody managed to remove. The quartermaster tells you not to complain. A dead soldier does not need comfortable boots. Your lasgun is older than you. The serial number has been scratched away and replaced twice. During the first live-fire exercise, it overheats after 7 shots. The instructor tells you to learn its weaknesses. You ask when it will be repaired. He laughs. Conscript training is not about making you skilled. It is about making you useful before the transport arrives. You learn how to dig a firing trench, how to identify common Xeno silhouettes, and how to attach a bayonet to a weapon designed to kill at range. You spend 3 days practicing formation movement. Then an officer informs you that formations rarely survive first contact. The regiment's commissar visits during the 4th week. His coat is black, his boots are polished, and his pistol is real in a way your lasgun has never felt real. He speaks about courage while walking slowly between the ranks. One recruit faints. The commissar waits for him to wake before continuing. He explains that fear is natural. Cowardice is a decision. The distinction, he says, is whether you continue moving toward the enemy. Nobody asks what happens if you move in the other direction. You already know. Your mother is allowed to visit once before deployment. She brings food the barracks guards confiscate because outside supplies have not been inspected. For 10 minutes, you sit across from her with nothing between you but a metal table. She tells you that your father would be proud. You ask if she believes that. She does not answer. When the transport departs, thousands of people fill the streets beneath Imperial flags. A band plays the same marching song you heard during childhood parades. This time, you are inside the carrier. This time, the people watching are trying to memorize your face. The orbital transport smells of fuel, sweat, and sickness. Recruits are packed into metal compartments beneath pipes that never stop vibrating. There are no windows. You do not see your homeworld become smaller. You only feel the engines carry you away from it. Weeks pass in transit. Rumors spread faster than official orders. You are being sent against orcs. No. Tyranids. No. Human rebels who murdered their governor. One veteran attached to your unit says the enemy does not matter. The first artillery shell sounds the same regardless of who fired it. When the transport finally reaches its destination, officers order your company into landing craft before anyone explains the campaign. The ramp closes. Red lights fill the compartment. Every recruit grips a weapon. Someone begins praying to the Emperor. Someone else vomits inside his helmet. The landing craft shakes as anti-aircraft fire explodes around it. A warning alarm screams. The sergeant shouts instructions, but the engines are too loud to hear him. You look at the frightened faces around you and realize that every lesson, parade, slogan, and punishment has led to this exact moment. Not victory. Not glory. A sealed metal box falling toward a battlefield. The ramp opens before the craft fully lands. Smoke pours inside. The sergeant points forward. You run because everyone else runs. Behind you, the landing craft lifts away. Ahead, something enormous moves through the smoke. Your 6 weeks of training are over. Level 4, Guardsman. The first thing you lose is the man running beside you. One moment he is there, shouting something you cannot hear through the artillery. The next, the ground opens beneath him. You keep running, not because you are brave, because stopping would mean looking back. The battlefield is larger than anything training prepared you to understand. Trenches cut through the earth like old scars. Burning vehicles lean against shattered walls. Shapes move through the smoke, some human, some too large to be human. All of them trying to kill something before they are killed themselves. Your sergeant points toward a ruined hab block. The squad follows him because nobody has a better idea. You fire your laser gun at movement in a window. You do not know whether you hit anything. The weapon kicks heat into your hands, brighter and louder than it ever felt on the training range. The enemy fires back. A beam strikes the wall beside your face. Stone becomes dust. For several seconds, you cannot hear anything except a high mechanical ringing inside your skull. Then, someone grabs your shoulder and pulls you forward. You never learn his name. By nightfall, your company has taken the building. The officer calls it a successful advance. You count 17 people from your landing craft still alive. Nobody knows how many entered the smoke with you. The next morning, replacements arrive. They wear clean uniforms and ask what happened. You tell them to keep their heads below the window line. That is the first useful thing you have learned. Days become weeks. The regiment moves from one defensive line to another, always told that the next position is essential, the next assault decisive, the next reinforcement column close. You stop believing words like decisive. Nothing is decisive. A hill is taken, lost, and taken again. A trench fills with bodies, then rainwater, then new soldiers. Officers mark progress on maps that do not show the dead. You learn the real habits of a guardsman. Sleep whenever someone else is watching. Eat before asking what is in the ration tin. Keep one power cell hidden where the quartermaster cannot count it. Never remove your boots, because an alarm will sound the moment you do. The commissar still gives speeches. They become shorter as the regiment becomes smaller. During one retreat, a recruit freezes in the middle of the road. The commissar raises his pistol, but an artillery shell lands before he can fire. Afterward, nobody knows whether the recruit ran. Nobody knows what happened to the commissar either. War solves some arguments by removing everyone involved. Your first confirmed kill happens inside a collapsed manufactorum. An enemy soldier appears through the smoke at arm's length. He looks as surprised as you feel. You both raise your weapons. Yours fires first. He falls against a machine and slides to the floor. For the rest of the day, you remember his face. By the end of the month, you cannot remember it at all. This frightens you more than the killing. You begin writing names inside your helmet. The man from the landing craft, the medic who carried you through shell fire, the loader who gave you his last ration before an assault he did not return from. The list grows until there is no empty space left. Then your helmet is struck by shrapnel, and the quartermaster replaces it. He throws the old one onto a pile of damaged equipment. You watch the names disappear beneath other helmets. The regiment survives the campaign. That is what the official report says. Out of the soldiers who landed with you, fewer than 1 in 5 board the transport home. You are not among them. Your company is reassigned before departure. The Imperium has found another world that needs defending, and experienced soldiers are too valuable to waste on rest. A new group of conscripts joins your squad. They look at you the way you once looked at the veterans in your training camp. One asks how long you have been fighting. You try to remember. You cannot. The sergeant hands you a clean insignia and tells you to sew it onto your sleeve. You are no longer considered new. That is the entire ceremony.
Level 5, Veteran.
The first thing that changes is not your rank. It is the way new soldiers look at you. They arrive wearing clean uniforms and carrying laser guns that still smell of machine oil. They ask whether the enemy is really as dangerous as the officers say. They ask how long the bombardments last. They ask which prayers work best before an assault. You stop answering honestly. Honesty would only make them afraid sooner. Instead, you show them where to sleep when the trench floods, how to keep mud out of a power cell, and which section of the bunker roof is most likely to collapse under artillery fire. They listen because you have scars. In the Imperial Guard, scars are mistaken for wisdom. You are issued veteran markings after surviving 3 campaigns. There is no ceremony. A clerk checks your service record, stamps a form, and hands you a new shoulder badge. The badge is cleaner than anything else you own. By now you understand that survival is not proof of skill. Sometimes the best soldier in the squad dies first. Sometimes the coward survives because he dropped his weapon at the right moment. Sometimes an artillery shell lands 10 meters to the left instead of 10 meters to the right, and the Imperium calls the result experience. Your body begins keeping records your mind cannot. The old wound in your knee aches before bombardments. Your hands wake you when they hear engines change pitch. You can identify an orc weapon, a rebel autogun, and an Imperial heavy bolter by sound alone. You no longer duck heavy bowl when firing begins. You duck a second before. That is why the recruits believe you know everything. They do not see you count exits whenever you enter a room. They do not notice that you never sit with your back to a door. They do not understand why silence makes you more nervous than gunfire. The regiment is sent to a world whose name you forget before the transport lands. The enemy has taken an industrial city. Command wants it reclaimed before the factories are damaged. The factories are already burning. Your squad is ordered through a drainage tunnel beneath the outer wall. Intelligence says it is unguarded. Intelligence is wrong. The first recruit dies before anyone fires back. You pull the others into cover, identify the enemy position, and order 2 soldiers to throw grenades while the rest advance through the smoke. Nobody assigned you command. The sergeant is simply no longer alive. When the fighting ends, 5 soldiers remain. One of them asks what to do next. Every face turns toward you. That is the moment you become something more dangerous than a survivor. You become responsible. You lead them through the city because stopping means waiting for another order that may never arrive. You avoid the main roads, steal ammunition from an abandoned supply point, and reach the Imperial lines with 3 wounded soldiers and information about the enemy's artillery. An officer praises your initiative. The same officer signs a report describing the dead as acceptable losses. You are promoted after the campaign. The new rank brings a better ration allowance, a private corner of the barracks, and authority over people young enough to remind you of yourself. You receive a chainsword you do not want, and a squad you are expected to keep alive. The recruits look at you with relief. They think veterans know how to survive. You know the truth. Veterans only know how many different ways survival can fail. Level 6, Sergeant. Promotion does not make you feel more important. It makes more people die when you are wrong. You are given a squad of 10 soldiers, a chain sword, and authority that exists only as long as they believe following you is safer than thinking for themselves. The youngest recruit is 16. The oldest is a minor with 3 children and no military training beyond 6 weeks in a transport hold. The regiment calls them ready. You call them by name. That is your first mistake. Veteran sergeants warn you not to get attached. Soldiers are reassigned, wounded, promoted, or killed too quickly. Names create memories. Memories create hesitation. Hesitation gets entire squads destroyed. You learn their names anyway. You teach them the lessons no manual includes. Never gather beneath a single roof. Never follow a tank too closely. If an officer says an objective is lightly defended, expect a fortress. If the commissar asks who suggested retreat, nobody answers. Your squad begins trusting you because you do not promise they will survive. You promise only that you will not waste them. The next campaign tests that promise immediately. Your regiment is ordered to cross an open refinery yard under enemy fire. Command believes the defenders are retreating. Through your magnoculars, you see movement inside the shattered towers, and reflections where no glass remains. It is an ambush. You report it. The lieutenant orders the advance anyway. He has a timetable. The enemy has heavy weapons. You send 2 soldiers toward a drainage channel, while the rest create smoke with grenades and burning fuel. It is not the route you were given. It is slower, dirtier, and technically disobedient. It also keeps your squad alive. The platoon beside you follows the original order. By the time you reach the refinery wall, there is almost nothing left of them. The lieutenant later demands an explanation. You tell him communications failed. He knows you are lying. You know he cannot punish success without explaining the bodies outside. That is when you understand command inside the Imperial Guard. Orders come from above, responsibility remains below. Your squad completes missions other units cannot. Not because your soldiers are stronger, but because you have learned, when instructions are written by people too far away to see the battlefield, you bend orders without appearing to break them. You retreat before a position becomes a grave, then describe the movement as tactical redeployment. You abandon damaged equipment to save wounded soldiers, and report it as enemy destruction. You divide ammunition according to who can use it, not according to what the quartermaster recorded. Every decision creates paperwork. Every decision also creates survivors. Then one decision fails. During an urban assault, you choose the eastern street because the western route looks too obvious. A hidden explosive destroys the lead. Fire team. 3 soldiers die instantly. 1 remains alive long enough to ask whether you chose the route. You tell him no. He dies believing it was an order from command. You carry that lie longer than you carry his body. After the battle, the captain praises your squad for securing the district. He recommends you for further promotion. The report mentions resistance, ammunition expenditure, and territory gained. It does not mention the dying soldier's question. Your remaining troops celebrate when they hear about the recommendation. They think a higher rank means you can protect them better. You know it means you will soon be responsible for more names. The chainsword at your side has become scratched and stained. You rarely use it, but recruits look at it with respect. They think it represents authority. To you, it represents distance. A sergeant stands close enough to see soldiers die. The next rank will place you far enough away to order it. Level 7, Company Commander. The promotion arrives in a sealed envelope. The casualties arrive first. Your captain is killed during an orbital bombardment that destroys half the command bunker. By nightfall, the regiment needs someone to take his place. You are the senior surviving officer with enough battlefield experience to be useful and not enough political influence to refuse. By morning, you command a company. 200 soldiers, 6 officers, 3 heavy weapon sections, 9 transports, 4 of which still move. The numbers look clean on the data slate. The soldiers do not. Some are veterans who remember when you carried a laser gun beside them. Others are replacements who know you only as the figure standing over the tactical map. They expect confidence from you because fear becomes dangerous when it reaches command. So you learn to hide it. A sergeant worries about 10 lives. You worry about 200. You cannot know every name anymore. You know squad numbers, ammunition levels, casualty percentages, and how many soldiers remain capable of walking after the Medicae station closes. This is how distance begins, not with cruelty, with arithmetic. Your first major order is to hold a bridge until an armored regiment can cross. Intelligence claims the enemy will reach you in 12 hours. They arrive in 4. You place heavy weapons inside the ruined buildings, mine the western approach, and order the transports turned sideways to form barricades. The river behind you is too deep to cross without the bridge. There is nowhere to retreat. The first assault costs you 17 soldiers. The second costs 31. After the third, your adjutant tells you the eastern flank will collapse unless you reinforce it. The only available troops are guarding the Medicae station. You hesitate. The sergeant you once were would have protected the wounded. The commander you have become moves the squad. The eastern flank holds. The Medicae station does not. When the armored regiment finally arrives, its tanks thunder across the bridge, while your surviving soldiers cheer. A colonel shakes your hand and congratulates you for preserving a vital supply route. He never asks what happened inside the hospital tents. Your report lists the loss as unavoidable enemy action. The lie is approved without question. After that, command becomes easier. That frightens you. You learn which units can be sacrificed without destroying morale. You learn how many casualties a company can suffer before it stops obeying. You learn to send one platoon into danger so another can complete the real objective. You no longer tell soldiers they will survive. You tell them their deaths will matter. Sometimes they believe you. Sometimes you almost do. Your company gains a reputation for completing impossible assignments. Regimental headquarters begins requesting you by name. Better weapons arrive. More replacements arrive. Medals arrive for soldiers who died before the paperwork was filed. The higher command notices your results. During the final assault of the campaign, you are ordered to take a fortress before dawn. The defenses are stronger than expected, and the artillery support never arrives. You could delay. You could retreat. You could preserve most of the company. Instead, you attack because failure would expose the entire army's flank. By sunrise, the fortress belongs to the Imperium. 38 of your soldiers remain standing. A general visits the battlefield and calls the assault brilliant. You look across the ruins and recognize almost nobody. The soldiers who followed you from the trenches are gone. The recruits who once stared at your chainsword are gone. Even the officers who learned to read your silences are gone. The company survived. You are no longer certain what that means. The general offers you another promotion. This time, you understand the price before accepting. You accept anyway. Level 8. Lord General. At the highest level of the Imperial Guard, you stop seeing battles. You see fronts. A battlefield contains trenches, burning tanks, wounded soldiers, and enemies close enough to hate. A front is a line on a hololithic map stretching across continents. Regiments become colored symbols. Cities become objectives. Death becomes a percentage displayed beside ammunition expenditure. You command millions now. You cannot visit them all. You cannot even learn the names of every regiment sent to die under your orders. Your headquarters sits aboard a command ship far above the worlds where the fighting happens. Officers surround you with reports, projections, casualty estimates, and requests for reinforcements the Imperium does not have. Every decision is presented as a choice. Most are only different forms of loss. One planet produces artillery shells. Another protects the route carrying them. A third contains civilians who cannot be evacuated before the enemy arrives. You have enough forces to save 2. The strategium waits for your answer. You choose the factories and the supply route. The civilian world disappears from the map 3 days later. Nobody accuses you of murder. They congratulate you for understanding logistics. At this rank, people no longer question whether your orders are moral. They ask whether they are efficient. You become famous for efficiency. Your campaigns preserve sectors that other generals believed were already lost. You abandon worlds before the enemy can surround them. You burn food reserves to deny them supplies. You sacrifice entire regiments to delay invasions long enough for stronger armies to arrive. Historians call these decisions brilliant. The surviving soldiers use different words. Some call you butcher, some call you savior. Most never know your name. You receive reports from commanders who still stand close enough to hear their soldiers scream. They ask permission to retreat, request reinforcements, and promise they can hold if you give them one more regiment. You remember making the same requests. Now you are the person refusing them. During the defense of an entire subsector, intelligence confirms that the enemy is concentrating around one fortress world. If it falls, the path toward dozens of Imperial systems will open. You gather everything available: armored regiments, artillery divisions, naval support, soldiers raised from worlds whose names you will never pronounce correctly. The fortress can be held. The cost will be several million lives. Your advisors wait. You approve the plan. For 6 months, the planet burns. Every day brings casualty reports longer than the one before. Commanders die and are replaced. Regiments disappear. Reinforcements land and enter battle before learning the terrain. Eventually, the enemy breaks. The fortress remains Imperial. Across the sector, bells ring in celebration. You stand alone inside the strategium, staring at the final numbers. Victory has consumed more soldiers than lived on your homeworld. An aide enters, carrying a message from Terra. You are being awarded another medal. The same document includes new deployment orders. A different sector is collapsing. Another enemy is advancing. Another 1,000,000 soldiers are waiting for someone to decide where they will die. You once believed rank meant freedom. As a cadet, you wanted to become a guardsman. As a guardsman, you wanted enough authority to protect your squad. As a sergeant, you wanted to protect your company. As a commander, you wanted to save your regiment. Now you command armies, and you finally understand the trap. The more power the Imperium gives you, the more lives it places beyond your ability to save. Your uniform is covered in medals. Your name is spoken in palaces and command halls. Statues may be raised after your death. But when the next order arrives, you answer exactly as you did when you were 15 years old inside a landing craft. You obey. You reached the highest level of the Imperial Guard. The Imperium still owns you.